Coogs House. Based on the recruitment of a couple of locally talented 4 and 5-star kids, the men's Houston Cougar basketball program might take an even bigger next step. It's not just me that thinks it.
You are Locked On Cougs, your daily podcast on the Houston Cougars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Cougs, the daily podcast about your Houston Cougars. I'm your host, Houston-born teacher and coach Parker Ainsworth. And whether you're a Houston fan or just a hater who came to stop by, thank you for making Locked On Cougs your first listen of the day. If you're joining the conversation but don't know what to say, tell us in the comments down below what your fast food joint of choice is. Today's show is brought to you by Game Time. Lowest prices on your tickets wherever you're trying to get to, anywhere in and around the H or wherever you're at. More on that later, but we're talking basketball recruiting after the end of AAU circuits this summer. Some Houston Cougar targets had some really big summers, and frankly, landing a couple of them could catapult Houston into an even higher echelon of college basketball. To help break that down, we're bringing on the Athletics' Tobias Bass to help us make sure that we get the absolute latest on future Houston Cougars. We are joined by recruiting insider for The Athletic and also just the entire Twitter sphere of college basketball recruiting, Tobias Bass. Tobias, I got to ask, on all these recruiting trips you're going on, whether it's to Atlanta for the Peach Jam or another was a Cincinnati Under Armour event or whatever, do you stop for fast food, and what's your fast food stop of choice?
So I'll try to stay away from the fast food as best as I can. Is Chick-fil-A fast food?
We'll call, for the purpose of having an answer, I think it's fair.
Yeah, well, and at the Peach Jam, that was probably the most Chick-fil-A I've ever eaten in my life. So I was eating Chick-fil-A literally every day, probably 2 to 3 times a day. I said, man, I'm sick of Chick-fil-A at this point. But yeah.
Well, speaking of eating at Peach Jam, segue, Shelton Henderson is a Houston kid. He and the JO3 AAU club have had a fantastic summer. Got, I believe, pretty far in the bracket play at Peach Jam. Handful of Houston area kids on that team.
Mm-hmm.
He's one that has always struck me as it would be a great Cougar from a culture fit kind of way. I saw him when I think he was on the 16U circuit, and his shoulders and his headshot, I was like, oh, this dude's like a power forward. And then I saw he's 6'6". I was like, oh, he's kind of a tweener. And then I saw him play. I'm like, oh, he's built like a power forward, but has the skills to do the outside stuff. What can you tell us about his game, what his summer looked like? I mean, he's had a crazy 2 years of stock rising.
Yeah, I mean, he had a great summer. I mean, I think he started the summer off as like the 3rd or 4th best player in the state. I believe he's now first on most recruiting sites, definitely on 247. He's a gold medalist. He went with that Olympic team overseas. He ended up winning a gold medal with those guys. So he's had a great summer. He picked up, Duke offer. That's probably one of the biggest offers you can get as a high school kid. He picked that one up. I think he has just as good a chance as any to be a McDonald's All-American. I think that he should be one at the end of the day. So, yeah, he had a great summer. He's a big, just physically imposing kid. I remember watching him as a freshman. He only could jump off of 2 feet. So now to see him, be able to do everything, with the ball in his hands, etc. But I think he's a phenomenal talent. I'm super proud of that dude, watching him for so long. But physical wing, jump shots getting better. I think he can really shoot it from the mid-range, finishes well around both ends. And I think that what's not talked about enough is how good of a rebounder and versatile defender that he is. He can guard multiple positions. And I think that'll be his biggest calling card at the next level.
He's got the broad shoulders and stuff, and because he's a highly touted recruit, I think people are going to liken him to Jarris, fair or unfair, if he were to put on a Houston Cougar uniform. I don't think that's always fair just because he was also a highly touted recruit and all that.
Yeah.
But I think the multi-positional defender is a very, something they definitely both had in common.
Yeah.
Was there, if people are Googling or YouTubing Shelton, was there a moment you're like, oh, this kid can do it all? Was there something that stuck out for you?
I mean, I really saw it just, as a freshman. So his freshman year, he played with Jacob Cole, who's at Oklahoma now. I think he finished as a top 70, 80 kid. Shelton was like leading them in scoring as a true freshman. That's hard to do, especially in Houston. There's so many good basketball players. They end up going to like the regional semis or something like that. And he was putting up 17, 20 a game every game. He was literally carrying them, as a freshman. So, obviously, and seeing him get better, just now you're just seeing the more of his game start to develop. When he's making jump shots, he's really, really hard to guard. And just seeing, the facilitate, he can pass it, with both hands, his vision at his size. So just seeing him, just his overall game, just be able to grow.
Well, and the well-roundedness of all that you're speaking to, I think, strikes
Yeah.
me as a very Cougar kind of guy. The toughness you see on the floor is a very Cougar kind of guy. We were talking pre-pod, another Cougar kind of guy as far as that sticks out to me, and I'll explain why, is Kingston Fleming. Now, Kingston Fleming wasn't at Peach Jam. He played on a Puma team as far as the AAU circuit goes. But he's a 6'3" guard out of San Antonio, so not that far, but a little farther away. And I've likened it to like a Russell Westbrook when we watch him play. The kid's explosive, fast, plays like in the best kind of angry way possible. I don't know, like just very, very explosive. I think he would come into Houston with a better skill set than most guards have come in, and we've seen Houston turn out a number of pro guards. When you've watched Kingston, I guess first, what jumped off, and then second, why would he fit in here?
I mean, just the first thing, just on the vision, speed, and athleticism. Those are three things that are just very hard to teach at that point guard position. He has all three. I think that it's good. Jamal said he's a great player. He's going to have a phenomenal career in Toronto. Very happy for him as well. But at the same age, I think Kingston was better. I think that he was better at the same age. So I think that, where we have to see Jamal, grow and continue to elevate, I think Kingston will probably be able to come in and make some version of an impact right away. I think that I can see that for him being able to do that. And then the fit's perfect. You're going to lose, you're going to lose Cryer will be gone. You're going to lose guard. So you're going to need a guard to come in there and step in right away. And outside of maybe Baylor and probably missing another school, what school puts point guards in the NBA better than Houston, especially in the last 4 to 5 years? Probably not many, puts them in the best situation, to succeed. And then also, who develops in-state talent better than Houston? Probably nobody. Probably not. So I think that he would be a phenomenal fit with U of H, and I'm excited to see where he ends up.
And that's a Tech alum saying no one does better than Houston, I would point out. I would say. So Kingston's a fun, explosive watch. I'd recommend a lot of people watch that. I think it was like San Antonio Future Ballers or some Puma League team where he really got to get out and run a lot in AAU style basketball. A guy that I don't know as much about that had apparently a crazy last couple weeks and his stock has really climbed is named John Clark. He plays with TJ Ford's club, and as the AAU summers are wrapping up, a lot of people are wrapping up the summer really high on this kid going into his senior year. What can you tell us about John Clark and his game? He's, I guess, from Houston, but is at Link Academy, so you don't get to watch him in town quite the same way. But what can you tell people about him?
So he played at Klein Kane the last couple of years. He actually just cut his list to 6 a day. It's Houston, A&M, Oklahoma, Ohio State, Kansas, and Texas. He's a 6'10-ish, 6'11", versatile five-man. He can turn around and face. Jump shots okay, but he does most of his work. What he's good at is just his motor. He has an unbelievable motor that just doesn't turn off. Long, athletic, rebounds, can guard multiple positions, good shot blocker. So I think he's definitely rising. He played on that the Adidas Gold, I believe, the last couple of years, but I think he's NBA talented. I think that he could be an NBA player in 2 to 3 years. I definitely believe that. TJ's done a good job of developing him. And he's another one. I think Houston's in a good spot with all three of these guys, Shelton, Kingston, and John. So I think that there's a good chance they could land. Obviously, they won all three, but I think there's a good chance they definitely could land 2 of the 3.
So let's say that's the 2025 class. I mean, that's the lowest level of that is a high-end 4-star. Those are 3 really talented kids in the 2025 class. What does that say about the program? I mean, I understand we're talking about Jamal Shade going to be a great pro, landing a great spot in Toronto, but he wasn't the 4 going on 5-star coming in. Marcus Sasser wasn't the 4-star going on 5-star. Quentin Grimes was a kickback from Kansas, right? Like they turned these guys out that didn't have that talent. What can a Cougar fan expect if this is what the 25 class were to look like? All right, now you've heard a lot about what the 2025 class looked like for the Houston Cougars, but if you're trying to get to a sporting event now, or a comedy show, or the theater, or a concert, or anything happening in and around the Houston area or wherever you at, the best place to get tickets is Game Time. Download Game Time app today and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. They've got all kinds of great last minute deals, zone deals. They'll show you what the view is from that seat in that venue for that type of event. All kinds of great features, but what I love is the price guarantee, lowest prices. If you can find a ticket in the same section and same row for less somewhere else, they'll credit you 110% of the difference to make sure they're giving you the lowest price possible. So download the Game Time app today, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's create an account and code LOCKED on college, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. What can a Cougar fan expect if this is what the 25 class were to look like?
I mean, I don't want to be exaggerating, but this would have to be their most talented recruiting class. If they get all three, this would have to be their most talented recruiting class coming out since they've been there. Maybe I'm forgetting a class, but off the top of my head, I can't think of a more naturally talented class that they would have signed. So I think the future would be bright. You're looking at a program that, again, no one develops in-state talent better than Houston. You're looking at a program that's won the most games in college basketball over, I think, with a 5 to 6 year span. You know, they don't have many guys transfer out of the program because they're treated very well and they're successful. So they're Houston for a reason. They've done everything to win the national championship. They've literally done everything. So I think if this is the class that you're bringing in, I don't see why they can't be another Elite Eight, Final Four team, over the next X amount of years or however long those guys are going to be there.
And these are just the headliners, and they've got connections. Like I said, I guess Kingston's not far away in San Antonio, and then John and Shelton are both from Houston. But they've also got like offers out there to Isaiah Harwell, who's a 5-star from Wasatch Academy. Chris Sinak, he's visiting soon. Chris Sinak, I think, had Houston in his top whatever. He's from New Orleans. Like they've got other 5-star talent out there with offers too. It could shape up to be an incredible class. It just feels like these kids are closer to home. I want to ask, this is down the line. That's the future stuff. The 2024 class, Mercy Miller, Chase McCarty, and kind of Milos Uzant, right? Like they all kind of formed together to create the class. I guess Milos transfers in. It's a little bit different situation. You lose Jamal, and I understand and I appreciate how many returners Houston has. Jamal's a lot to replace. What do these guys bring to the table? We'll start with Mercy because he's similar, I guess, or Milos, either one. They're both similar positionally in that they're guards. What is the backcourt going to look like without Jamal, but with these guys in it next year?
I think, Milos will be the starter. I think, he was a Big 12 all-freshman 2 years ago. Last year, he had a solid season. Didn't shoot it as well as he probably wanted to, but he can shoot it. I think he shot it better than his percentage was last year. So the backcourt will probably look like Milos, Cryer, and Sharp will probably be that, the 1, 2, 3, the guards right there. I think he comes in, he's going to be good. I think he shoots a little bit better than Jamal does. So I think, he's a different type of attack that he does. He might not be the physical, rough defender that Jamal was, that aggressive slasher, but I think he does shoot the ball. So, teams won't be able to zone them with those three on the floor. All those guys, I think, are going to be 35+% three-point shooters. You can't run a zone. So it's going to be hard, I think, to be able to guard those guys. And Milo's probably is a little bit more gifted at this age offensively than Jamal. So I think that he does bring a unique style to U of H's offense. And then with Mercy, can he at some point be that 6th, 7th man off the bench? Can he come in and do that? He really, really can score. He put up big numbers in high school. I think he's another top 50 recruit, something like that. So I do think that he's going to earn those minutes, and he's going to be he's going to be an impactful freshman this year for Houston.
Well, and I think it's interesting because it's actually not usually Kelvin's way to play a lot of freshmen. But a couple years back, Emmanuel and Terrence and then obviously Jarris, they kind of broke the mold a little bit. Jarris started, Emmanuel and Terrence came in off the bench early in the rotation. Last season, he didn't really have a whole lot. Then JoJo Tugler came in off the bench, and he kind of was the energy you had to have. Is that a shift in Kelvin, the program, the kinds of kids that are coming in? I anticipate Mercy playing as well.
Yeah, I think it's just the program. They've won a lot of basketball games, and kids want to play for a winner. You're in Houston. There isn't arguably a better city. I'm a little biased, but that you could play in. You could be in some backwoods city somewhere, right? So you're in Houston. They've won a bunch of games and they develop guys. So I think that the more they've won, they're able to get kids like Mercy and etc. And you have to play those guys. And I think that last year, unfortunately, the injury bug has been a major issue for Houston of X amount of years. The depth just wasn't there, and it wasn't their fault. It was just guys were hurt. Terrence is coming off an Achilles injury. We don't know when he's going to be ready to play. So somebody has to fill those minutes, right? Somebody. So who better than Mercy Miller?
I think he's a phenomenal scorer. There's all kinds of different things you find from his time at Notre Dame prep and stuff like that online. What would you say is his best tool with scoring? I want to talk about Chase too in a second, but what do you think is Mercy's best tool as a scorer?
I think he really can shoot the ball. I think he really, really can shoot it, and shooting translates. It typically does at all levels. It translates. You can shoot in high school. Generally speaking, you can shoot in college. So I think that'll be something that he can do. And, there's going to be times going to need him on the floor. He's going to be able to make shots. They need guys to be able to make shots, especially, it's a long Big 12 season. I think they're going to play 20 conference game schedules going forward. So it's going to be rugged as it can be. But they're going to need him to come in there and produce. And I think that he'll do that.
One, and like I said, shooting translates a lot. Mercy's recruitment and commitment and signing were all loud, not really because of anything he did, but he carries the Miller name and everyone thinks of his dad or his older brother or whatever, right? The under the radar out of the two is Chase McCarty. He kind of committed a little later, signed a little later, and he's just kind of been the other guy in this class. But then you turn on his IMG film, like, wait a second, this guy can really go. He's got a number of different things he does well on the defensive end, but that's me watching YouTube tape. You've paid a lot more attention to him. What do you think sticks out about Chase McCarty?
I think he's versatile. You could probably play him at that 3-4 spot. He's about 6'5" - 6'6". I think he could probably play both those spots, especially the way that Houston wants to play. He's another one of those foremen. He's pretty talented offensively. So I think that that down the line he'll earn some minutes as well. But I think that he could kind of be one of those versatile scorers you see at the 4 spot. And he can shoot a little bit too. I think he won the 3-point contest at the Under Armour Elite a year ago. So he can shoot the ball, another 4-star kid. So I think that there's and again, JoJo's coming off of an injury. Cedric Lakes is a freshman last year. Jacob McFarland was a freshman last year. He's going to have a good chance to go in there to compete for time.
Well, and I think that we keep talking about guys that can shoot, and that's if you can shoot, get on the floor. We know to stay on the floor, you're gonna have to defend. At 6'6", 200, I don't know what position he will. He's not going to play down low like JoJo did,
right?
But they have other point guards. I don't know what position he'll defend. What kind of guys you think he can lock up?
I mean, I don't think he'll be as good of a defender as Terrence is. But could he play similar to that role? They have Terrence at the 4 a lot of the time. Could he just be that foreman? You know how it is. Basketball has changed. You look at every level from college to the NBA. You have wingy players. They play the 4. So that's just how basketball has evolved. So could he be one of those wingy 4s that comes in and in a ball screen you have to switch? We don't have to worry about it being some lumbering 5. Well, our 4-man's a wing, so he should be able to guard other guards and be able to hold his own decently. So I think I could see him in that role.
Well, and frankly, I think the freshman Terrence pre-injury comp is clever because Terrence is from closer to home, closer to U of H, obviously being Beaumont. But I think that they were equally touted nationally coming in, and in a similar way with Mercy being the more like nationally recognized recruit in the 24 class. Back in Terrence's class, everyone was recognizing Jarris, right? And those things kind of shape out interesting to go back and forth. All right, we're talking about guys that are in the 24 class going to make an impact this year. We're talking about guys in the 25 class that can make an impact the year after. The other big thing coming out of the AAU circuit is a kid from Houston named Christian Gibson. I really briefly wanted to ask, Christian
Yep.
Gibson. I really briefly wanted to ask, like, who is this kid? He's from Maid Creek High School. 2026 class means he's going to be a junior in high school this upcoming
Yep.
year. Who is this kid? Talk about stock rising this summer. I don't know that I'd heard the name before. A month and a half, maybe a month and a half ago.
So he went to Springwood as a freshman 2 years ago, and I saw him at the TABC for the first time. Kid can really score, but I saw him. I said, okay, it was my first time mid-major plus high major minded kid. So I saw him this summer. Man, is he good? He can really, really score the ball. I think he's top 3, top 4 in scoring. You probably won't find a more beautiful jump shot in high school basketball than his. He can really score the ball, man. He can put up big numbers in bunches, and I really enjoy watching him play. He's definitely one that Houston that should, and I know they are recruiting that kid. And if people that live in Houston, you should definitely go out to the Katy area and go watch that kid play. He's probably going to have some 40, 50-point games this year.
Well, and always fun to watch a kid get 40, 50-point games.
Yeah.
But he joins another laundry list. If you look at guys in the 2026 class with Houston offers, again, the lowest ranked kid is a high-end 4-star. They're after these whales again of recruits. At some point, they're going to. I think it's going to have a 2025 class. They're going to start just coming in droves, and I don't know what the light switch there is, but is there anything to be said about Houston as a program has developed the 3-star Marcus Sasser, the 3-star Jamal Shett? Like that was the bread and butter of this. Do you have any hesitation about the transition from one program to the other?
No, I think that they're honestly they're just in the new realm now where they can actually get these guys consistently. I mean, JoJo Tugler was the top 100 recruit. They just signed several guys over the last 3-4 years. A couple of them in the NBA that they've done. So I think they're a versatile staff and they're a versatile program. They can develop both. They can get a 4-star kid, put him in the NBA. They can get a 2, 3-star kid, put him in the NBA. They can take a transfer that was McDonald's All-American that people gave up on. No, we can get that kid and we can fix him. And he goes to the NBA and he's in Dallas now making money. So I think that they're just a versatile staff and a versatile program. That's why they're one of the best in the country.
Well, and I guess the versatile there, it does speak to. It's not, it'd be easy to coach at a place where you get a bunch, or at least recruit a place that you get a bunch of 5-stars for decades and decades and decades, and the turnaround is really, really impressive. Last question, then I want to let you plug whatever you got going on lately. But with AAU circuits wrapping up, and I think there might be something that like an NCAA and USA something this weekend, I think, and that is the last I see on any calendar.
Right.
What do you ever sleep? What do you like? You don't seem to take any breaks. Are you about to get a break, Tobias?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of it just goes straight through. The college basketball season ends the same day the portal opens up, right? So it's just they're kind of, let's say basketball never stops. That's just kind of what it is. Hopefully I'll get a little break maybe, but the Olympics are on. We got to watch the girls and the guys teams play. You want to see them win gold, both of them. So definitely going to be watching that. And then recruiting, every kid's, it seems like they're cutting their list or taking their last couple of visits, and kids are starting to commit earlier because of the transfer portal. They don't want to get swept up in that nonsense. But as far as getting a break, maybe every other day, maybe a couple of days a week, every 2 weeks, maybe. But we got to stay on it, man. A lot of these kids are going to start committing, so I'm excited to see where they end up.
A lot of kids are going to start committing. I think people can anticipate 2025 kids that just wrapped up their AAU summer taking visits and committing between now and start of their high school season, kind of getting it done. Tobias, you're always breaking and leaking and talking about that on all the platforms you're on. Where can people find you, the work you do, and keep in touch with all these things?
You can find me on Twitter at Tobias_Bass. That's TOBIAS_Bass, like the fish. The college basketball, we still got a little bit of time left. There's a story on there about some of the standouts from the Peach Jam. I'll actually probably be doing a story soon on what college programs put the most guys in the NBA and the ones that are able to stick. So some of the numbers will surprise you. Some of them have been in a couple of mid-major schools like a Santa Clara. They've had 2 first-round picks in 2 years. So I think that'll be an interesting story that I'm going to end up finishing. And then the Olympics, they start Friday. So there's going to be a bunch of sports we're going to be covering. So you can also check that out as well.
Again, that's editing and writing our stories over at The Athletic. I would encourage anyone that's a college basketball fan to follow him on X and Twitter, because Tobias is always telling you what the latest is across the nation, not just in Houston, though that's where you're located, across the nation as well. So thanks, Tobias, again for coming on. Hopefully we get 3 or 4 of these 4 or 5 star kids, and we can talk more about the impact they make down the road, bud.
For sure.
Thank you again to Tobias, Houston's own Tobias Bass, I should say. He's a Tech alum, but we excuse that as a Houston guy that really appreciates the strength of a Houston Cougar program and helps identify. If you follow him on Twitter, social media, he is always talking about when bringing up kids with Houston offers, the way they fit into the culture and things like that. To make sure you give him a follow the content he's putting out with The Athletic. As good a college basketball recruiting person as there is out there. Thanks again for stopping by, Tobias. And thank you for making us your first listen of the day each and every day. If you're looking for a second listen, can't get enough of college basketball, looking forward to the Olympics and all that, look at Locked On College Basketball for your second listen. They're doing all kinds of great stuff talking about the off-season, as if basketball ever sleeps. So go check out Andy and Isaac over there doing a great job. Locked On Cougs is proud of the Locked On Podcast Network. That means your team every day. Go Cougs.